Hi. So some breaking news. This is according to the FBI. I'm going to go through some details here reported from CNN and some reaction because there is some wild reaction to this news. But the FBI was reporting that there was another attempt on Donald Trump's life, but this one wasn't as, let's say, close as the one that grazed his ear a month ago. But there's going to be a narrative that comes out of this whole thing that there is really only one narrative that should come out of this. And I'll get to what that is. But first, let's get to the details of what happened here. And I'll grab, people that want to comment or chat. I'll bring some of that in later. But let me start with details. All right. So this apparently happened around 1:30 p.m. Eastern time in Florida. This was at his golf course. So the FBI said they're investigating what appears to be an attempted assassination. This believe an armed person was trying to target Trump, according to sources briefed on the matter. Secret Service agents fired at the suspect. A local sheriff's office said it had taken a person into custody after the gunfire at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. So he was golfing at the time, and this happened. I'll get to how close it was. But reaction. Actually, first I'll get to the reaction since it's already posted here. But Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said both are relieved to know Trump is safe. So Harris responding here saying, "I've been briefed on the reports of gunshots fired near former President Trump and his property in Florida, and I am glad he is safe. Violence has no place in America." I'll get to one other reply to the news from a crazy person, but wait for that. So, some interesting details. They caught him after it happened. So, he had apparently escaped into a car, and then they stopped him, and he was relatively calm. He was not displaying a lot of emotions, never asked, "What is this about?" The unnamed suspect was not armed when law enforcement officials took him out of his car. Snyder said the sheriff's office would take the vehicle to FBI custody, which will take over the investigation along with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Secret Service. So this is how it apparently happened. This is so bizarre. The Secret Service agent was able to spot a rifle barrel with a scope sticking out of a fence at Trump International Golf Club. It's like a cartoon. Like when I'm having flashbacks to, I forget what it is, but one of those classic cartoons, like Wile E. Coyote sticking a gun through a hole in a fence. Like it just seems so cartoonish. But that's when they engaged the suspect, and the shooter was 300 to 500 yards away from President Trump. And again, nobody was injured here apparently, including the suspect who was taken from his car into custody. But so before I get to the reaction from the insane person, the lesson here for me, like the lesson, or I should say the story coming out of this is going to be, oh my, political violence. We don't know who this person is, first of all. It may be another Republican. It may be somebody who's apolitical. And just, to do something like this, you got to be crazy, I think. The real story here is gun reform. Why are so many crazy people, or why do so many crazy people have access to firearms and are able to pull something like this off? That's what should be the focus of discussion here, because ultimately that it always comes down to, this is the only country where this happens on a consistent basis in a way that it doesn't happen in any other country, even countries with guns. Canada has guns. If you want a gun, a firearm, you can get one. But there's a process to go through. You have to go through, a license process. They do a background check. They call your partner or previous partners to ensure you're not somebody who shouldn't have a firearm. There's training, and then, there's a waiting period. There's a whole process to go through, but you can have a firearm. And again, not for self-defense. You can have it for hunting or for sport. But, other countries, they have guns, but these sorts of incidents don't happen all the goddamn time. So that to me is the lesson here, is we should be discussing gun reform more in this campaign. That should be a major discussion. But instead it's going to be, oh, they are trying to get Trump again. Let's get to the loser. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I covered in a different story a few days ago, which she was the less crazy of the two in the story. Believe it or not, when she was, I don't want to say defending, even though my title says that, but quasi-defending Kamala Harris against Laura Loomer. But really, it was about her worry that Laura Loomer and her crazy conspiracies are going to hurt the Trump campaign with the cats and the dogs thing. So, you can go watch that video from a few days ago where I break all that down. But back to her crazy self, tweeting out here, who's they? I don't know. They tried to assassinate President Trump again today for the second time. Reminder, the first person was Republican. A registered Republican. Now, I don't think his politics play any real part except for the fact that he was able to own a firearm, but Republican. So who is this they? For me, again, this comes down to crazy people. I don't care what their politics are. You're crazy if you're trying to do this. But the stakes of the election are literally life and death. I'm praying for his safety and all of us around him. I'm thankful for each and every one that guards his life. But then it gets crazier. They want video of President Trump being assassinated so bad that would be that the would-be assassin had a GoPro to film it. Yeah, so apparently I missed that part. The shooter had a GoPro on him, like he was trying to film it, like a lunatic would. This comes after Thomas Crooks tried to kill him at a rally while the world was watching. Who would receive the video feed from today's assassin's GoPro? These are not lone wolves, or the person's trying to film it because they are crazy. There is a conspiracy to murder Trump, or people realize, hey, you know what? I can become famous by doing something insane. And insane people latch onto that and think, you know what? It's really easy to get a firearm in America. And they try doing something insane. So that is the lesson here. Insane people should not have this easy access to firearms. Now, thankfully, again, nobody was hurt. Everything's fine. And let's say, the conspiracy angle here. Republicans would benefit if somebody else was at the top of the ticket. So, this would in no way help Democrats. The idea that there is a conspiracy, the assumption here from MTG clearly being that Democrats or somebody aligned with the Democratic Party is trying to do this, it wouldn't help them. So what would be the motivation there? Again, there's no conspiracy. It's lunatics attempting this stuff. Now, let me get to, it's unfortunate, by the way, before I get to any comments or anything from people that are in the chat, that it is overshadowing this story where J.D. Vance admits on CNN that he made up the cats and dogs story as a way for the media to discuss. So I'll see if I can find, this is a long video. See if I can find that portion.
Into the community, because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting.
Yes, he made up the story about the cats and the dogs. That directly led to all of these calls and all this violence directed towards Haitians. It is a very clear connection here. This is the stuff that J.D. Vance was bringing up. Now, maybe he's trying to claim that he isn't responsible because it was Trump at the debate that said it, but he's the one that first brought this up that Trump then popularized, and Laura Loomer as well intertwined in all that, also spreading that propaganda.
We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats of
happened
violence.
after you and
But to
President
say,
Trump
no, no,
were
Dana,
on
no,
the
Dana,
on the
to
debate
say,
stage, said
Dana,
that cats
no,
and dogs
you
were
asked,
being
you
eaten.
asked a question,
And
Dana, and
after
I'm going to
that-
go ahead and answer it.
Okay, after that, they were
what
threatened.
we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence?
He made up a story. He made it up. He knows he made it up. During this interview, at some point, he says he made it up. And this is now being overshadowed by this insane person who attempted this insane thing. Let me, I'll leave this on screen in case people are joining late, but let me check some chats here. And then I will go, because it's not a whole lot to really discuss here. And again, it's still being investigated about, who did this and all that. Let me make a guess here, educated guess. It was a crazy person, but what do I know? Let me bring this out so I can read it better. All right. Super chat from Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky. Apologies for the name pronunciation. Says, just saw a tweet. Laura Loomer is on her way to the scene, so we can rest easy. Still alive says, my honest opinion equals I don't think this will matter in the long run as far as the election is concerned. We'll forget it happened a week from now. I agree. I mean, the one that was a closer attempt on his life, it's kind of been forgotten. It doesn't help the fact that Republicans, they can't say Democrats tried to do it because they didn't. Republican tried to do it. If it comes out that this guy was a Democrat, I'm sure they'll try and latch onto this more. But regardless, this is an issue of gun reform. Chokesky again says, Laura Loomer looks like a Junji Ito horror manga creation. Okay. All right, let me grab some normal chats. Tyler Hackner says, most likely crazy. Someone else says, who cares? Warren Entertainment says, Dave, when's the last time you've been to Florida? When was the last time I was in Florida? I think 2017. I don't remember. Somewhere around there. Let me see. The Furious says, does anyone sound more robotic and fake than JD Vance? I know, even while playing this video, there's 4 minutes here. I could play a hell of a lot more, but I don't want to. I don't want to hear his voice, and I don't want to bore all of you. But there's a long discussion here about him just making shit up. I'm reading the caption because there is a point where he says, if I have to make things up for the media to cover this, then I will. Anyways, I'll just read more chats. He's so boring. He's such a boring person. Mike says, JD Vance ate my dog. Nat Turner says, this was right down the street from me. Yikes. JD bashing Dana. Yeah. The Dana Bash. Nice play on words there. Dana Bash is center right, depending on what topic we're talking about. There is no issue where she is left wing. She is center right. And I don't consider issues of, human rights, like gay marriage, to be a left wing issue. That is just an issue of human rights. But she is right wing on some human rights issues, like on Israel. So this idea that, Dana Bash is going on to bash JD Vance. No, she's acknowledging the facts that happen. That JD Vance raised this fake story of immigrants eating cats and dogs that JD Vance admits in their interview that he made up, and that led directly to the madness that is happening in Springfield, in his state, by the way, his state, Ohio. A good question. Here we go. Still Alive says, video game question. Any interest in playing Visions of Mana? I'm enjoying it so far. I played the demo. I'm just not in the mood to play a Mana game. It's something that I had interest in. Then I played the demo, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not really in the mood for this. But I totally appreciate it. It's really shitty that the devs were, fired. I think as the game was being released. But seems fun. Just not in the mood for that. There's so much out right now. It's crazy. There are way too many games. Look for Lek says RFK Jr. is a known dog eater. He's a suspect now. It is kind of wild to me that even I forgot that, forgot to bring that up in my video on that whole thing. Because, one of the guys that we do know has at least discussed at some point eating cats and dogs, endorsed Donald Trump. Like, wild. T-Bird says, just another Florida man. All right. Yeah, no one has anything to say here because there's still details coming out, but I thought it was worth discussing since I was already home. Figured I would discuss it a bit. Sam O says, have you played Space Marine 2 yet? Heard it was great. I have. I'm like 3 hours into it. I gotta say, I'm not as impressed as I thought I would be, but I'm enjoying it. But it's definitely like a 360 PS3 era shooter, which is fine, but just know what you're getting into. The online is solid. It's satisfactory from what I've played, but it is wild to me that to see a game like that, which is a full price game, have a lot of people playing online, and a game like Concord, which was a PvP only game, and fucking fantastic, super underappreciated. Almost nobody played it, and that game dies 2 weeks later. Space Marine 2 has some technical issues online that Concord never did. But I'm going to stop talking now because I'm going to get into a tangent. The Lumpen Lodge, thank you for your chat, says, another false flag psyop by MAGA. Dango Bangle says, check out Age of Mythology Retold. I am not in the mood for that game, but for sure, if you feel like a solid RTS experience. Beezus, you haven't played the game, so stop pretending that you have opinions. I love people that have opinions on games I never played because they heard someone else say something. I'm like, you know what? I know what that game is. I know I don't like it. I know it's bad. You never played it. Stop talking. I've played every online shooter known to man. Concord was like Halo mixed with Heroes. There is nothing else like it. If there was, I'd be playing that game. It doesn't exist. All right. Now, the chat has devolved into talking about online gaming. This is how uninterested people are in the main story here. Rachel says, I usually can't spell Pierre Poilievre, so I can't spell it either. Every time I go to spell it, I have to look it up. His last name is just, it's very hard to spell. So I'm going to continue calling him PP. How likely is a potential future PMPP? Right now, it seems very likely, but I am curious to see once a campaign actually begins and people begin to see PP on TV more often. I feel like they're going to lose some support. It doesn't mean they're going to lose enough to avoid a conservative government in some fashion, majority or minority, but I can't imagine people liking Pierre Poilievre the more they see of him. I have a very hard time imagining that, but people are tired of Trudeau, so maybe they're just happy to take anything else. I don't know. C33394009, what a name. I never thought the leopards would shoot. I never thought the leopards. I was going to say eat because that's usually what it is. I never thought the leopards would shoot my face. All right. We don't got to sit here all day talking about games because that appears to be the majority of chat now, which I'm perfectly fine with, but that is not the title of the video. So again, recapping here, there was, according to the FBI, an attempt on Donald Trump, but it wasn't as close to him or as close to happening as the last one was. Nobody was hurt, and the person is in custody, and everybody's fine. And the real story to come out of this is we should be talking more about gun control, or I should say gun reform, because gun control is a scary, scary term to people. Gun reform, because lunatics should not be able to easily access firearms. I hope that's obvious. All right. Dangle Bangle, another chat says, AOMRT campaign is one of the best hidden gem RTS. I was never super into RTS. I feel like I would be more so now, but in my younger years when I actually had a PC that could play games, I was never super into them. But something like, a Frostpunk, I can dig into that. Frostpunk is good. All right. I'll just be here all day. That's it for chats. All right. Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk. And there'll be more news tomorrow, I imagine. Things to discuss, potentially. Hopefully not as dangerous as this topic. This insanity. Please, stop trying to shoot people. Stop shooting people. Maybe don't even own a firearm, since they usually end up being used against someone you know, as opposed to, this intruder that's coming to kill your family. That doesn't normally happen. But there you go. That's the news. Thank you all, and see you all this week. Make sure you hit subscribe and like and all that fun stuff. And comment on your thoughts about this story, if you have any. All right. Goodbye.